Maybe it was stupid, but I became Blackwing to be that symbol for people again, to restore their pride in Gotham, and to spur them to take charge of this city once more.
That's right, Jace Don't Call Me Tim Fox was not the first Black protagonist to don the Bat mantle, or Bat handle. For that, we need to go back to the Bronze Age and to Earth 2. It's time to talk about the very memory-hold Charlie Bullock. And to get sweaty, it's very sweaty up here tonight. Greetings, comic lovers, and welcome back to Casually Comics, the channel where we chat all things comics, from music, comics new and old, history to anecdotes, really wherever our whims take us. I'm Sasha, hello. Today's whim is courtesy of longtime channel member and viewer Harry Schlitz, who sent me this email reminding me that Charlie Bullock even existed, or Charles Bullock, also known as Blackwing, DC's Blackwing. So thank you for that. Now, there have been many characters take a stab at the Bat mantle. Charles is an interesting case in that there was a lot of build-up and explanation given as to his rationale, and then it never really went anywhere. Also, he later had his history kind of cobbled together because initially there's some glaring gaps. Blackwing is very much a character inspired by Batman. He wants to take on the role of protector and be an inspiration to Gotham City, but he also wants to take on his own identity as well. Earth 2 was like that. Earth 2 was in this period, as it had been since his debut in The Flash, the home of the original Golden Age heroes. Earths would change following Crisis on Infinite Earths. Over time, there would come to be stories, mostly backups, though there were also some standalones, that would focus on the characters of this Earth. This Earth had a large focus on the next generation, the heroes succeeding the Golden Age heroes. By the time of Blackwing's appearance on Earth 2, in that world, Batman was dead. In this universe, he had married Catwoman, also dead by this point, and they had a daughter, Helena Wayne, the original Huntress, who is now the protector of Gotham. Dick Grayson, Robin, had grown up and remained Robin. He was now an adult vigilante, sporting a far too similar to his Robin costume, so the Batman mantle itself had yet to be taken up. There was a sense on Earth 2 that these original mantles were so big, they were owed so much respect that to take on the name was daunting, and also a humbling task. And on this Earth, there seemed to be a desire to forge one's own identity, even if they were heavily inspired by previous heroes, such as was the case with Blackwing. A mantle can be a weighty thing. It's time to take a look at the journey of Charlie Bullock and examine if he had some potential to be more. Should he have been the future state Batman? Let's find out. Charles Bullock first debuted in Adventure Comics 464 in 1979. In the JSA story, that being the Justice Society of America, to everything there is a season. This story was written by Paul Levitz, with art by Joe Stanton, inks by Joe Stanton and Dick Giordano, colors by Adrian Roy. This story is for the most part about Wildcat, and as the title would indicate, it's your standard "I'm getting old, is it time to retire" type of story. Should he hang up the cape, or in Wildcat's case, not the cape, because he did not have one, but he did have some funny cat jowls. Wildcat has turned down an invite to hang out with the younger heroes. He feels he's a bit too old to go out wherever they're going. I mean, did you see Dick's medallion? Wherever they're going, it's gonna be hip. Instead, he decides to head to his old neighborhood. Also in this, he's drawn aggressively like Bruce Wayne, but just with some side hair streaks. When he gets to a bar he used to frequent, he sees a former boxer being tossed out of there and begging for money. This makes him feel even more depressed. So he wanders the neighborhood and ends up back at his old gym. Yeah, here she is, my old gym. Maybe I never should have shut her down to go back to the Justice Society. Man needs something to call his own. It's while he's contemplating this that he's stopped by an at this point young unnamed Charles Bullock. He's a neighborhood youth. He's interested in whether or not the gym will reopen because his older brother used to train there. He's less than impressed when civilian Wildcat tells him that probably not, times change. Keep the excuses, man. I heard him. See ya. Look at this panel. This kid looks like he's about 12 to 14. But then when he shows up to help Wildcat, who of course ends up having to break up a robbery, he looks like he could be maybe 16. Heard the screaming, mister. You need a hand? We'll have to go with the later age based on the backstory they're gonna cobble together for him. Wildcat is impressed that this young man jumped in to help him, and Charlie expresses a sentiment that it feels good to help out in any way you can. This inspires Wildcat to reveal his identity to Charlie, as he's now made the decision to train heroes for the next generation. And the first he's gonna train will be Charlie, and it's implied that he's gonna reopen his gym. That was one productive late night stroll. After that, Charlie would not reappear for a while, emerging in the Huntress backup stories in Wonder Woman in issue 281 in 1981, in a story once more by Paul Levitz, and again art by Joe Stanton. But the inks this time are by Steve Mitchell, same colors. The story's called Always Leave Him Laughing, and the main focus is Huntress having her first run-in with the Joker. But in the midst of this, she's introduced to 3 new members of her law firm, her family's law firm, Cranston, Grayson, Wayne. Bullock, Charles Bullock, Brooklyn Law. I've come to handle litigation. Okay, how he looks in this panel, he is never gonna look this way again. He's gonna have very different features when he reappears. Same hair though. Helena is a junior partner of this firm, by the way, and she's constantly vanishing, but they say that she's a good lawyer and that's what counts. Showing up is overrated at Cranston, Grayson, and Wayne. Now for several issues, we just see Charles as a background character. He has a couple of lines in the issue, usually about the case, then they move on. It's not until 286 where Helena and Charles have some banter directly. The Joker got dealt with prior issues. There was also an awkward romance romance between her and Robin, kinda sorta. No, in this issue, now is the time for carnage with a K. Now to the banter. Hey Charlie, go easy on the terminal. At the rate you're calling up cases from Lex's databank, you'll have us bankrupt in no time.
Sorry, Miss Wayne. I keep forgetting that Cranston, Grayson and Wayne is a public interest law firm, and we can't exactly bill the public back for what Lexus charges us.
Exactly, Charlie. It's nice to have every bit of case law at your fingertips, but don't pull more than we absolutely need for the trial, okay?
Okay. Funny, when I was going through law school, they never told me I'd end up being a computer operator.
It's a tool, Charlie, like any other. You don't have to be a librarian to use books, do you? There's too much sass. There's too much sass in these panels. What a repartee. I sure hope this lighthearted atmosphere isn't interrupted by carnage. Of course it is. Next issue. This issue is where we get our first glimpse of Charles's heroic mindset. And I say first because the whole Wildcat stuff not referenced. There wasn't an editor's note when he first appeared either. I scanned the letters column to see if there was some kind of editor's note mentioning it, but I couldn't find one. Granted, I was mainly focusing on the issues that Charlie appeared in and then shortly after. Wanted to stick to Charles for maximum Blackwing. So if somebody wrote a letter several issues later, like 10 or 20, or they answered it then, I did not see it. Let me know. Both Helena and Charles think that they want to protect the other and spring into action.
But it's not you I want, it's the Huntress.
And he's instantly down, and Helena makes sure he stays that way by slipping him some sleeping gas so she can become the Huntress. Issue 2889 sees Charles thinking about how since the Carnage attack, he wants to change his life. He's also slightly worried about Helena, who's missing. But since she oft just vanishes, nobody takes it very seriously at first. It's in issue 290 that his concern is ramping up.
I suppose Miss Wayne did seem to be a capable woman on the evidence.
Oi! You can be capable and still have things befall you. But really, Charlie says that he needs to go to the library because he has to do some research. We see it, he's researching the Huntress and her costume. He's thinking that this is all he'll need. Spoilers, that will be all he needs. Apparently they have great detailed notes on the Huntress's costume and how to make other costumes in this research. Speaking of Huntress being capable, one of the best things about these letter columns in the issue is how much they're saying how awesome Helena is and how she's so hardcore. At the same time, some of them are complaining about how Wonder Woman needs to be more hardcore. It's just amusing because Wonder Woman is the main feature. Now it's a while for the costume research payoff. So we don't see Blackwing until issue 297. This is 1982. In the story, Fate is the killer, go save the world. That sounds like it should be an anime title. The story is now written by Joey Cavalieri. Charlie features very prominently in this issue. It opens with a mom and pop shop being shaken down for protection money by some neighborhood hooligans who are foreshadowed to be Cobra members. Just look at their jackets.
In the old days, there was the Batman, God rest his soul. He was there to protect people like us. Saw to it slime like that didn't get into the neighborhood. But now, who stands up for people like us? What can we do?
This panel is nice as it not only serves as more of a catalyst for Charles and the decision that he's already basically made since the Carnage attack, but it also highlights the good that Batman did for the community. How he looked out for all the people. How he was about making sure everybody in Gotham had a fair shot, or as much as he could do that. Even with some of the criminals that he arrested or roughed up. This aspect of Batman often gets overlooked or memory hold, so that new creators can try their own approach in The Dark Knight. Sometimes ones that suit their ideals more so than the character and his history. So it's nice to go back and revisit these moments and highlight Batman as a force for good for everyone, or someone just trying his utmost to be. Unless you're a filthy super, you know what, even then sometimes. Batman cares, and so does Charlie. It's these Cobra hooligans who he decides to come back for as Blackwing. I know there is contention about adding black to black characters' names. There's an examination of the thought process behind it and whether it works or doesn't work. Discussions to be had. Mileage varies. Personally, I think Blackwing is a cool name, or a decent name at least. I also like the idea of him trying to forge his own identity separate from Batman, even though it is heavily inspired by him. This rather than having him just take on the mantle. But I'm also sure that there are far better names. Please let me know what you think would be a better name down below. Give him some cool names for Charlie. Now, unfortunately for Blackwing, he gets his behind handed to him very quick. He's even unmasked. Also note, now we're spelling his name Charlie with a Y, whereas before it was with an IE. I noticed that and it bothered me. It's just a small inconsistency, but it's one of those moments where it's just why? It's such a little thing. Keep it consistent. Next issue, Charlie now has been kidnapped by Cobra. As he lies in the back of the car regaining consciousness and deciding what to do, he decides he's gonna monologue quite aggressively, an internal monologue about why he decided to become Blackwing in the first place. He also defends the name, saying that he thinks it's cool. Good. Stand by your naming choice.
Man's got a point, though Blackwing is a perfect nom de guerre.
Perfect. Did you hear that? Perfection.
Sure, I was a top-notch lawyer, but that only gave me a ringside seat as I watched criminals slide through the revolving door of justice. I feel the need to do something more, something lasting. My hero had always been the Batman. The heart of this town really quit beating altogether when he died. But then the Huntress swung into action. I knew in my guts that if she could do it, I could do it.
I do like the addition at the end of this that he admits that he's scared and that it's stopping him from doing anything. Even though he has all this passion and energy and drive, he is still scared. It's a good addition because it leaves room for him to grow and overcome. It also makes him a bit different. He's starting out from a different point, and he will overcome. Next issue. When he sees Huntress, who came to save him and deal with Cobra, being crushed or constricted, after saving her, he says he wants to explain, so he ruminates even harder on why he wanted to become Blackwing.
There was a time when the Batman symbolized everything that was good about Gotham. When he died, this town's sense of pride, of fair play, of what's right seemed to die with him. Maybe it was stupid, but I became Blackwing to be that symbol for people again, to restore their pride in Gotham, and to spur them to take charge of this city once more.
Look at that, the idea of Batman as an inspiration, someone who can make the city better even just by being there, to make people want to try. It's an interesting take because Batman can do that, but in a very different way than, say, someone like Superman. It's more of a negative type of reinforcement. Also, Charlie did do some things right. He had a tape recorder in his belt and he recorded all of the Cobra conversations. Utility belt, tape recorder. So again, potential. There also was a nice line earlier on about Batman's legend. The bat signal cuts through the night, dark skies, familiar yet unfamiliar, once more a beacon of hope. Though the Batman has been seen, no one can quite bring himself to believe he lives. Then again, no one had ever quite been able to believe he died. Legends simply don't live or die like men. Blackwing is all wrapped up in the mythos of Gotham and of Batman. He's new and idealistic. Earnest, really. But alas, that's pretty much all they wrote, despite some descriptions that you may come across saying that him and Huntress teamed up all the time. Maybe in my dreams. Blackwing essentially vanishes after this. I did see a mention in a letter though. Yes, I did trawl some of the letters, and I found one in Wonder Woman 305. It's not the most glowing mention, but it's there. Blackwing's intervention made good use of one of Helena's supporting characters and gave her the courage she needed to destroy the BOA's entire operation. A beautiful story. May I suggest another guest star? How about Batwoman? Yeah, Blackwing's aight, but you know what? We need Batwoman. So not a yay or a nay, just a he existed. Blackwing didn't seem to make that much of an impression. And there are some holes in his character. For example, later it will be concretely said that he was the young man who trained with Wildcat. But that seems like some light retconning. As while the character shares the same name, the ages are off, or they seem to be. At least for Charles to be appearing at the law firm so shortly after the Adventure Comics issue. Not that much time had passed. And even if the time was fine, wibbly wobbly comic book timeliney, he can't fight, like at all. And he never mentions Wildcat. That would seem worthy of a mention. Instead, he's inspired by Batman. He's his favorite hero, but no mention of Wildcat, the man who allegedly trained him, and also a former member of the JSA. It doesn't feel like the same character. Or if it was, it feels like the writers changed it, or like some details slipped through the cracks. Later in the Batman Encyclopedia and the Blackwing entry, they do say that he trained with Wildcat and then went to law school, and that the training with Wildcat gave him the confidence and the discipline to really succeed in law school, but not to be able to fight at all in the slightest. Maybe Wildcat was too old to reopen that gym. For what is there for this character, it's a shame more wasn't done with him, but it's also not surprising. It's a pretty huge role to have him come in and want to be a Batman-like figure to fill what he views as that void. It's ambitious and daring, and he's a side character in a backup story. He's also a part of a company that's heading towards a massive reboot in 1985. At this point, lots of things are being thrown at the wall to see what sticks, and a lot of them won't survive Crisis. On top of that, he didn't really seem to move the needle. But there was some build-up, and with some more commitment, it could have worked. It does also work to have him be someone who realizes that he's not cut out to be a vigilante. That's an interesting story too, but there were things to like about Charlie. There's a contrast to him coming from a much more idealistic yet equally determined place, and also one from a different perspective. There's also a layer of the potential for conflict with his job and the information that he would find out as Blackwing. The respect he has for the mantle is also endearing, and the fact that he starts off as not the best fighter and a bit afraid gives him much room to grow. He also could have had an interesting dynamic with Helena, as she is someone with an intense personal connection to Batman, now contending with someone with a lot of hero worship from an outsider perspective, and less knowledge of what it truly takes. Although that would require some ditching or tweaking of the Wildcat origin. You could incorporate the Wildcat start as well, but it would raise some more questions. Why can't he fight at all? Now this was Huntress's series, or backup story, so to potentially introduce what could have been such a huge character in this would have been a bold play, like to keep him there. It didn't pan out, but I wonder if there could ever have been something more done with him. If there was room for him in modern DC, the whole wanting to inspire a city would have fit in well with Future State, someone to inspire hope, although that wasn't a very hopeful event. And since his name was Blackwing, you could have put him in with less friction than jumping straight to Batmantle. What they say in the series about the Legend of Batman creates an interesting space for a world where no one takes up that specific mantle, but it's never fully gone, but some come to embody it. Until finally one day, maybe the people of Gotham themselves deem somebody else to be Batman. How would that be? Here's Bullock going by Blackwing, and after a time and coming into his own, the people dub him the very hero who inspired him.
That would be pretty awesome. The original meaning of the word.
He has a very Batman design, so he clearly wants to be associated. He also is looking to embody what he views as the positive aspects of Batman's legacy. Very Batman in spirit, if not in name. It could have been a cool new take on a Batman character, and Earth 2 was a great place to do it. Now, some wikis claim that he also appeared in Batmite #2. I looked and I didn't see him. I saw a Hawk Batman, but it didn't seem to be him, so if he is there, it's very much a blink and you'll miss it reference, and it doesn't really impact anything. It must be noted that Blackwing is also the name of a Marvel villain, who first appeared in Daredevil in 1974, so there's part of me that wonders if this is one of those cease and desist moments, and oh no, these characters have the same name and we made them first, so step off. Secret threats. But in a world where two Blackwings could coexist, let's live there for a moment. We can always change his name too. What do you think of Charles Bullock?
No relation to Harvey Bullock.
Do you think he had potential? Would you have wanted to see him return? Do you like the idea of him carrying on and growing more into the mantle? Or do you think it's good to have stories where characters decide that, you know what, the nightlife is not for them?
Do you just want to hear about Marvel Blackwing?
Let me know all your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking this entire day spent discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.